Hey guys, I just wanted to really talk about the Forspoken story and a little bit about the themes that's covered. It's probably gonna have a little bit of spoilers, so if you care about that, then look away. But if you don't, then I'd like to go in detail about what I think of the game, as well as like a little bit on what I think the theme of the game is. And it's a little bit of a stretch, maybe. Perhaps the developers didn't really see it that way, but I mean, one of the best things about video games is the endings and storyline is open to interpretation, and this is just going to be my take on it. And so, like, what the game talks about is you're playing as Frey, who is a orphan, born in, well, I mean, in New York, and she was kind of like just abandoned by her parents, and so she has to turn to a life of crime, and overall, she's not like outstanding heroic figure that people are going to look up to. Instead, she's kind of like the opposite of that. She's someone who doesn't have a lot of confidence. She doesn't really know like how to care for people, or like what the meaning of like responsibility is, or like, but you can kind of tell through her character, like she's homeless, or she's not really well off, but she still really cares for her cat Homer, and so there's some compassion in there. It's just that she doesn't really know how to show it to other people because she's never been shown that warmth before. And so like these are thoughts that kind of like came up after I started playing the game. When I started playing the game introduced me to a character that wasn't very relatable, and I didn't really like her because she was rude, and she always seems to be like kind of over the top reacting to things that's happening around her. And like after beating the game, it got me thinking like, oh, what if that character design is on purpose? Because when you're designing a game and you go over all that stuff, it's really difficult to like not think about like, oh, how is my character coming across? And so if it stayed in the game, there's a chance that it was actually designed for that. So I started looking for clues, and I think I got something that maybe some other people didn't notice, which is what I wanted to talk about. So now I'm going to move into the spoilers. It turns out that when you beat the game, Cuff, you actually absorb him into your arm. And one of the things that's important about that is Cuff is actually the biggest antagonist in this game. He's the guy who took over all of the Tanta. He's the guy who's called the Demon Susurrus in this game, and which is like what the Tantas got together to take out. When he died, like when he got sealed or taken out, he was actually turned into a bracelet, which is the cuff that we know. And he was split into 4, which is why each of the Tantas have their own cuffs. And the significance thing of this is that, like, we all know that Cuff is actually a pretty annoying character. Like, there's just no questions asked. He's really annoying. He talks so much. He's always like up against Frey, and he's really annoying. And arguably that like this might be done on purpose, because after you beat the game, the first thing you see when you enter the chapter is Cuff saying that he'll try to take over Frey's body over time and slowly drive her insane. And so when you beat the game, you get that ending sequence, like an hour of cutscenes and a mix of other stuff. And that's really like what I was seeing, like, oh, so it kind of seems like the game intentionally made Cuff really annoying, so you can relate to Frey's experience and see how the other Tantas might have gone insane, because you have this really annoying guy that's always whispering to you, and he's actually a demon too. And so you have a demon that's like doing demonic whispers in your ear for a really long time. And so to me, it's starting to look like maybe some of the things that this game does, like intentionally making you not like a character, or intentionally like making the story a little bit difficult to understand or relate to. And that's kind of like one of the themes that I think is being conveyed in this game. Like, for example, there was like, when you're seeing like Tanta Scylla for the first time, she's already like killing someone, like a kid, Olivia. Well, you don't know that she died yet, but she's already mass murdering people on the streets. She is trying to kill Alden. She's trying to destroy the city just to find the demon who you know is talking about you, but you realize at the end of the game it was actually talking about Cuff. Cuff is the demon that they were talking about because it's driving them crazy, so they wanted to kill Cuff. And so, like, if you look at the really small details, when you're fighting Tanta Prav, it seems like she was actually like talking to herself, like she had a split personality. And then by the time you fight the third Tanta, she's actually already dead too. And so like this is the kind of thing that it's becoming more apparent the more you play, that Cuff is really the guys who's behind the scenes, and all of their actions may have been like controlled by Cuff, because Olas was already dead by the time you get to her. So that means the person who was using illusions and stuff was actually Cuff, because he was borrowing on their power in order to manipulate you. And which is why at the very end of the game, when your own powers were awakened, you actually took back control. And you can control like your own fate, your own stuff, and eventually that's what I really think the game's about. The game's about empowering you, believing in yourself, believing in having the confidence and belief to do what you want. And that's what the game's trying to say. But there's also a very important message that tells you to like not have just like don't judge things based on the first impressions. Always like look deeper, dig deeper, and think a little bit more. And I really think that's really the biggest part of the game, because like, to be honest, when I was playing the game, I was affected by a little bit of the reviews about the story, and so I really paid attention to that. I based the game on my perception of how others base the game. And so, as I played, I was like, wait a minute, those game reviewers are completely wrong. People on social media are judging it just 100% based on the demo, and they're just pretending they played the game, but they didn't really. Because once you go into the nitty-gritty details, they can't even talk about it. And reviewers are rushing through the game, so they're not even thinking about like what the morals are. They're like skimming through a book and said like, yeah, I finished the book, I'm a great reader, I read so fast, I'm great, I'm number one. And you're not really going into the details or even thinking about what the game's trying to convey. And that's really what I'm trying to do here, and giving some like additional insight for those that are interested. But some of the things is like in the last episode, the last like chapter of the game, there you're shown like really the behind the scenes of how the Tantas are as a person. And I think that was a really cool thing and cool way to really show like, oh, I thought Tanta Scylla was actually a horrible person, but it turns out that she was manipulated. And then so was Tanta Prav, and especially so was Tanta Olas. And so maybe like my opinion of Frey was affected because I saw her initial background. She was coming from a background of crime, she wasn't well off, she was an orphan, she's rude, and overall wasn't a really likable character. But then I started to picture like things that happened in the past in her own, like, and then in her reaction to like some of the things happening in Athia, I was like, well, I guess it's somewhat relatable, because if you're asking me to go to a random world where I don't belong, and then you're telling me to go and protect people that I don't know, a country or a world that's not my own, when the only thing I care about and only relation I have is actually just Homer in New York. But I'm not in New York, so why should I do anything to help Athians? And so that's the thing that really like hit me as something that's like the main message. So that's why when the game introduced her as an Athian, she was like, well, so I'm Athian in name, but nobody cares for me here. Why the hell should I still protect the world? And then it turns out that like, well, she actually does have people care for her, and she actually kind of like had four moms, because everyone, all the Tantas really loved having like Alfrey, which is her original name, and they really supported having Frey brought into this world, but there's just concerns about Susurrus, who is Cuff. And like, oh, well, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. Like, it's a world that's gonna be eventually taken down because the people who have been protecting the world are all going to turn insane, and once they turn insane, they're gonna start destroying the world. And they knew that, but that's just how it is. And you kind of like, oh, well, if I was put into that position, maybe I would have also sent Frey into another world. And well, you kind of see like the original plan was for Faye to live a happy life in another world where she would probably never have to use her powers, and shit happens, and Cuff was somehow brought into New York where she followed Frey, and so that led the game to really go into how it kind of like started. So it doesn't really explain why Cuff was following Frey over, but the logical thing would be Cuff wanted to escape with Frey, and then until the timing was right, use her to escape back to Athia so he can exact his revenge on the Tantas. And the only way to do that would be to wait for the Tantas with all the three who has Cuff's bracelet on them to turn mad before getting Frey to go back into the world of Athia, and then to killing them and absorbing their bracelets so Susurrus can become whole again. So overall, like, your best companion, your ally, your friend is actually the worst enemy in the entire game who planned out the demise of everything. And instead, like, the people who you thought were bad because based on the first impressions and whatever you saw when you first played the game, you're like, oh, okay, it's a standard game where I'm a person sent into another world and I need to save the world. And the way to achieve that is to kill all the gods or Tantas. And yeah. And so that kind of first impression and the twist at the end, switching like your friend is your ally, I mean your friend is now your enemy, and your enemy is now your friend, and instead they're the people who cared about you the most. And that huge flip in perspective, I think, is really the main meaning, like the main reason for Forspoken, like the real message of Forspoken. Like, don't judge things based on first appearances. Instead, you really need to know and understand that. And I think, like, I don't know if the demo was also done with that kind of theme in mind. Like, did they purposely want to have a lukewarm reception and see if people are willing to take that chance to try their game like me, despite poor reviews, and then try to make it popular based on like actually playing the game instead of basing it based on just the surface level of reviewers who are just trying to get things done and play more other games so they can keep on reviewing more stuff. And I don't know if that's the risk that they were willing to take, or even like the risk, because it sounds crazy if that was the case, but I can totally see it being like potential thing that they were considering, because the demo really does not sell this game at all, because you're limited by the combat moves that you can do. Like, the most fun part is unlocking all of the spells and then parkouring in different areas of the map, but the demo is such a small and enclosed area with a lot of the collectibles not even available, so you don't even know like what the game has. Like, everything was like kind of unlocked for you, so you just know, oh yeah, I have a bunch of equipment, and you didn't know like how to get mana or how the system worked. And so there were some things that just didn't translate very well until you played the final game. And yeah, like, I really enjoyed just parkouring here, which is why I chose to do this kind of ramble in this kind of format while I'm just collecting mana, because it's actually a really fun thing to do. And yeah, but I hope like my explanation of what I think the message was clear. Essentially, like, I'm just relating it to real life. Like, I remember a few months back in like October 2022, there was a voice actor that was saying that she was being underpaid given a really bad offer, and it turns out that she was actually lying, and she added she had an above average offer, but maybe she didn't play her cards right, and she lost the opportunity to voice a character, and now she wanted to get back at the company, and essentially that's really what's happening here. Like, a lot of people are like seeing this game, it's getting reviews, and then they're like passing judgment on it based on just the demo and based on reviews and just the demo, and then ignoring what everyone else that's actually playing the game. And like, that's relatable to that voice actor incident, because a lot of people jumped out to protect her and saying like, oh, we need to get workers' rights and blah 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 blah, all that kind of bullshit. And then they were like, oh, well, so it turns out she lied, and then everything just kind of got dropped. But the action of going out to defend a voice actor when you only know her side of the story really makes like highlights this game's theme to me. Like, you only know what you see in front of you, like the Tantas, and you don't figure out like what the Tantas' actual story is like until you find the lore out in the world, and you can see like how they were actually treated in the last episode, like the last chapter of this game. And it really changed my perspective, and I think that's the effect that they were trying to get at. Like, the story is designed in such a weird way that it seems to be on purpose. I really think that's what the whole design concept was, and that's really to like show you the one side, and then when you get the like behind the scenes, the full picture, and then they're hoping to convince you like, oh, so it's actually like the Tantas weren't actually bad people, it's just they were forced by circumstances, and that's how it turned out. And that's really what I think the whole theme of the story is. Like, if you take it at face value, the story isn't good at all. Like, it's about a girl sent to a different universe, isekai, and she just does kills stuff, kills people, and then saves the world. It's a very straightforward hero story where the hero is pushed into a role that she doesn't want to be in. And yeah, that's a very standard story, but dig a little deeper and you'll see what I'm talking about themes. Themes, morality, how you should, like, even like living in your own life, you should really get the full picture of everything. And you shouldn't just jump to conclusions, because it doesn't help anyone. And yeah, I really liked how the game was designed. It was a really different approach, and that if the perspective that I read and understood from the game was right, no, actually, even if it's wrong, the developers didn't design that. That's the take-home message I got, and I thought that itself was really, like a good message to have, because, like, when you're jumping to conclusions, it doesn't help anyone. I also hate like console wars and stuff, so even if this wasn't a PS5 exclusive, I would probably still play it on PC, just so I could try it, because it seems like an interesting game. And yeah, I think more people should really be more open and just accepting like people like different things, and like you shouldn't be going out and doing console war stuff and trying to like put down people who was enjoying the game just because you only based it based on appearances. You don't even know how it plays like. And yeah, that's essentially it. So if you're here and you're still listening, thank you for taking the time to listen to my rambles. And I hope you guys give it a shot yourself, either in the future when it's on sale, or after hearing like and seeing like some of the gameplay, you're like, oh yeah, this game seems pretty great. This video isn't sponsored because I'm too small for that, and I don't really care about that too. It's more like I just like games that are unique, so if more people support games that are unique and I enjoy, then I'll have more chances to play other unique games, because it lets companies or developers to really branch out and make some unique stuff. I don't really enjoy games that are like a little bit too straightforward, so Ubisoft is one of those games that I hate, like Watch Dogs Legion, Far Cry. Assassin's Creed is a special spot. Like I love the style, but I don't like the UI and like the world design where you have like 200 billion things to pick up, and the only thing you can do is like walk or ride on your horse, which is so dull. Like, yeah, talking about like missed opportunities. For Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you already have Pegasus, I believe. No wait, that was Odyssey. And like, yet you couldn't ride on Pegasus. Like, what the heck is that? You gave me a horse with wings, but I can't fly with it. And the world's like so freaking big too. Like, so stupid. And like, yeah. But yeah, essentially that's the gist of it. And so yeah. Just thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching the game. If you haven't seen it, I do have the full playthrough on my YouTube. It's just the playlist. There's about 13 videos. It's like 18 hours or so. So it's a good watch. You can just kind of like hear me ramble and play the game while listening to me ramble. And it's almost unedited. I edited a little tiny bits of it just to make it a little bit more entertaining, but most of it is just kept there because I like to keep the originality of the entire game. So even if you don't play it, you get the full experience of playing it, and then you have, like, you understand why I'm making my thoughts, or what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about the game throughout the process, and you can see how my opinion of the game changes from the start to the end. And this game really gave me that experience of changing my perspective, and I really think it's underappreciated at the moment, unless the sale numbers are amazing, like 1 or 2 million sales, then that's fine. But if it's like 100k, 200k, then I really think it should be able to do a little bit more. But yeah. And so, yeah, I'm just gonna end it here, and thank you so much for watching and listening to my rambles. I'm probably gonna be uploading a little bit more for Forspoken gameplay, maybe like a combat tutorial kind of thing, and then maybe like one that's dedicated to hunting mutants, because I got destroyed during my own gameplay. I couldn't kill a single mutant, and I really want to have that chance, and I think I'm gonna try it after I power up a little bit more, get a little bit more mana and stuff. But yeah, overall the game's fun. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. I really liked a lot of the things that they were doing, and I just hope that there's more types of these kind of unique games that, like, everyone gives it a chance. And so thank you so much, and see you in the next one.